Welcome back to Agility Summit. I'm happy to welcome you to the last session of today. Everything that happened so far has been fantastic from my point of view, and I noticed a lot of chatter and a lot of conversations. But now we have with us somebody who is a veteran and leader in the international Agile community. Um, Working with hundreds of organizations in more than 20 years, but more than that, Olaf Lutz is somebody who has a big heart, and everybody knows this. And it's always nice to talk to him. It's always nice to interact with him. Uh, but he was also called recently like a troublemaker. So this will be interesting to hear. What kind of troubles can Olaf create? I can't imagine. Uh, so he'll be talking about if Agile is the solution, I want my problem back, which is a very interesting title. Welcome, Olaf. You have the stage.
Thank you, Alex, for the lovely introduction. And thank you all for coming. Thank you all for joining. And giving me this space. Thanks to Mosaic for the invitation. And I'm assuming that just like me, you've been sitting in your chair in front of your computers for hours already today. Many of us do that a lot more often than we used to, talking to people through our computer. I want to kind of go back to what we originally wanted when we started this thing that's now called Agile and now become a hype and in some areas almost religion. And the inspiration to this talk came from a friend of mine called Martin Kearns, Scrum coach from Australia. And at a conference several years ago in his talk, he said something like, whenever somebody says that's not Agile, a fairy dies. And reflecting on that, I noticed how stupid and limiting it is that we call it some things Agile and other things not Agile, and that we try to focus on these being the right things and these being the wrong things. And when I look at the Agile world today, it's quite devastating. There's a lot of hope, and I'm full of hope, and I'm an optimist. I can identify with the label of a troublemaker. Laura apparently gave to me before. That in the sense that when people don't want change, then I can be a source of trouble. I work with companies who really want to change. And what I'm observing more and more is that Agile is pushed down people's throats. I've talked to developers who think that Agile is a weapon to control them even better, even more deviously than the old processes and the old structures they're used to were working for them. And when I remember how we started out in the early 2000s, it was very clear that this was a movement that was supposed to liberate people. It was supposedly putting people first. And it was driven by experimentation. When the first Agile books came out, like the retrospectives book, the planning book by Mike Cohn, the XP books, of course, it was very clear that some people had written down something they had tried and described how it worked for them. And for all the practitioners who read those books back in those days, it was very clear that this was not the Bible. This was not something to be taken for granted. This was something to experiment with, to adapt, to make your own. And when you look at the thousands of Agile books today, or at least several hundreds of prominent Agile books today, they have so many pages, they have so much information. If you're new to this now, and if you're getting into this, you think that Agile is a solution. And it's not. It's a journey. It's a learning process. This is the best definition of Agile that I've come across from my friend Nick Tate. Nick Tate leads the Agile coaches. They call them delivery managers at GDS in London, Government Digital Services. It's one of the most agile places I've seen on the planet. And I've seen many. And this is all there is to it. And there are two statements out of four that refer to us being human, to us being people first, showing up for each other, showing up with each other. Be kind to each other and be kind with each other. And yeah, then there's the improvement, the repetition. And how does that work? How does repetition lead to improvement? There's another friend of mine, Adam Pearson. He used to be a guitarist for the Sisters of Mercy. Some of you, like me, might be old enough to remember and love that music. And since he's left the Sisters, he's been working on development. And he's been looking for a simple model that makes development understandable to people who have not studied any esoteric stuff. And he's come up with this model that's connecting us to ourselves, that's connecting us to our future, that's connecting us as a community. And the very basic idea is that your system, and you can start with yourself, just imagine your mind has a pause button. Given all the input you've had so far, given all the content that's been coming at you so far, I think taking a pause is a really good idea. So maybe you want to close your eyes briefly. Nobody's looking at you as far as I can tell. And wherever on your body you imagine that pause button to be, maybe it's on your wrist, maybe it's on your head. I usually press it like here and just pause and take a breath. And try to extend that pause. Maybe pause again and like, hey, seriously, body. Hey, seriously, mind. Hey, seriously, heart. I want to take a brief break, just a couple of seconds. And then you can press the play button again, which after the brief pause gives you an option to consider stuff, to think things through, and then we can move on. So very simply, we pause in order so that we can reflect and connect. We play with our minds in order to think and understand, and then we start moving again. So what the pause gives us connects us to our feelings. It connects us to our context. It connects us to where we are. An Agile team will do that when they demo their system and when they retrospect. That's what the pause is in an Agile development. And then we plan as we think about the next iteration, the next sprint, or however you call that. And then we start sprinting again, iterating again, developing again. And I want to do a short exercise where we do that in order to connect to our purpose. And I can't have you talk to each other because we're not in one room. So we do a virtual friendly version of this. I do invite you to stand up though. And instead of talking to your neighbors, I want you to imagine 3 people. Imagine you feel excited about something and you want to share it with someone. Imagine 3 people you would love to share that with. Doesn't matter who they are. Just imagine 3 people you know well and you would love to share exciting things with. And you may write them down if you have some pen and paper at hand. But 3 names of people you know you can probably remember. And just remember who is the first, the second, third. I call them person A, person B, and person C. So just take a moment so that you have these 3 people clearly in your mind and you clearly see them. And then, if you haven't yet, I'm inviting you to get up. I need to check for the video. I'm actually still on screen and my head is not cut off. That works. So I want you to imagine, and close your eyes if that works better. I want you to imagine that on your left, person A is standing. And now I want you to take 30 seconds to explain to person A why you are here. Why are you here? Take 30 seconds to explain to person A why you are here. And if you're alone in your room, feel free to speak out loud. That will help the exercise. So now I want you to close your eyes again and pause again and connect to where you are. Take a deep breath, filling up the space that you're taking up with your body. And with that connection, with that groundedness, with that feeling, I want you to imagine that everything you've just explained, all the reasons you've just given to person A for why you're here, they're all fulfilled. Imagine you've got everything you came here for. Imagine everything you wanted out of this talk, out of this conference, out of this day. Everything has been granted. It's just been made true. And now you turn around another 90 degrees. And now in front of you stands person B. And with all of your previous wishes granted, all your previous wants fulfilled, now ask yourself again the question, why am I here? And explain to person B why I am here. 30 seconds. And now again, close your eyes and take a deep breath. Connect again. Connect to your context. Connect to where you are. Feel your feet on the ground. Let the air fill the space as you're breathing. And now again, you know the spiel already. Imagine that everything you've just wished for, everything you've just given as reasons for why you're here, all the purpose that you've just explained has been granted, has been fulfilled. All your wishes have come true. Everything you just said, what you came here for, what you are here for, is fulfilled, granted, succeeded. And with that feeling, think of what might an even higher purpose be? Why am I here? And for a third and last time, turn around to person C and explain to person C, why am I here? 30 seconds. And now, come back from your imagination from this exercise into the here and now. Sit back on your chair or stand back in front of your computer, whatever you do. It's all fine. And as a closing to this exercise, I would like you to write down in the chat what that was like. Just take a few moments to write down in the chat what that was like and what difference did it make? What is different now? after this 3 iteration, explanation, exploration of your purpose, why you are here. I feel a lot more connected now. And it's weird, I also really feel connected to you, although I can't see you and I don't even know who you are or how many of you are there. It's an interesting world, noting to an unknown, unseen audience. So moving on. So is Agile broken? Is Agile dead? I know of one organization only that has a significant size of more than several hundred people and has been Agile, done Agile for more than 10 years and has actually been transformed from an organization that was not Agile before to an Agile organization. Maybe you know it too. Maybe you know a different one. Maybe there are 10. I don't think we have a good track record of this. And I don't know that the current way we are doing it is actually helping. And I would like to go back to what we originally wanted. And just as another little idea of how I'm looking at stuff, this is from Dan, from D. Hock's book, The Birth of the Chaotic Organization. D. Hock was the founder of Visa, an organization that's definitely not agile, but very resilient and also having a lot of the other aspects of organizations that we as agilists want to create and want to help become. And at some place in the book, he explains that there are 4 different ways to look at things. As they were, as they are, as they might become, past, present, future. And then there's a different weird way of looking at things as they ought to be. And I want to take the frame of the 5 Scrum values to look at how things ought to be. And start with courage. And I want to use the KONNEKT process to introduce ourselves to the Scrum values in a new way. So at first, I want you to feel courage. Feel courage in your body. When you're courageous, that feels like what? Whereabouts in your system do you feel courage? And when you feel courage, what does that make possible? So thinking about what courage looks like in Agile. One thing it means for me is I go first with everything I suggest. I don't point my fingers at other people and say, oh, they don't do this, they don't do this, they don't do this. No, I look for my responsibility. I take responsibility. I go first. I am the change that I want to see. And I'm not avoiding the difficult bits. Agile used to be about doing the things we don't understand first so that we limit the risk later. It was about relentless improvement. Agile is hard. And it's really hard to ask others to do it. So where's our courage gone? And maybe as we're thinking about it, what do we need to be courageous? What do we need to be courageous enough to actually evoke the change we want in the systems we work with? Openness. Let's feel openness. Even as I look at this view, I want to take a few deep breaths and get that fresh air from this blue sky and this wide plain into my lungs. And so where do you feel openness in your body? And what does openness feel like? And what does openness make possible? Let's think about it. The first thing I need to be open to is I need to be open to things I don't understand. If I limit my responsibility to things I understand, I have a fairly limited amount of responsibility. If I open up my responsibility and my influence to things I don't understand, I need to have an open mind. I need to be curious. And I need to be able to be humble. I need to be able to say, I don't know. Ask for help. All of that requires openness. And by the way, ask for help, I don't know, requires courage too. These things are related, right? Then we need an open heart. I need to be okay with things I don't like. I need to work with an organization where things are happening that I don't like. And I need to appreciate the organization. I need to realize this is where we are now. Change can only begin from where we are and from appreciating where things are. So many of us, and I've done this for years, come into an organization and say, oh no, it can't be like this. It has to be like this. We're hating reality for not being like we want it. That's not how you can start change. That's closed, right? That's not open. And if I'm not open to change and I'm coming into an organization, how can I expect anyone else to be open to change? Thinking about how do I change in this process first, right? Courage going first. This is openness to change. Every change I'm involved in needs to start with me. Fucking hell. Open will. I need to be okay with things that I don't want. Maybe some managers do things in a way that I think things shouldn't be done, but it's their way and it's their responsibility. And by wronging them, I'm definitely not helping. Openness. And how open do you want to be? How open do you need to be? How open do you dare to be in order to evoke the change you want to see? And what does that openness then make possible within yourself and within the systems you work with? Commitment. What does commitment feel like? And do take the metaphor of the image seriously. Commitment. Think of a commitment for life, a commitment you're making for the relationship in your life. That doesn't mean your commitment at work needs to be like that, but just to evoke the real feeling of commitment. Where do you feel commitment in your body? For me, it's a lot lower, a lot deeper than my heart. And what does commitment make possible? And as we're thinking about commitment, what does not committing make possible? Lack of accountability. In my experience, lack of accountability is the number one reason why agile transformations fail. Replacing command and control. Replacing command is easy. We know how pull systems work, and we know how to motivate people to take on work and to sign up for tickets. We know how that works. But the control bit, we're not really good at replacing it. And what we need to be accountable. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Being an accountable person, being an accountable team member, being an accountable member of an organization, taking responsibility for my word, for my promise. First thing, hard to do, stand up, look into a mirror and say, Olaf, you didn't do what you promised to do. Be accountable to yourself. Be honest to yourself. Have that level of confrontation with yourself. And then the next level up, much harder. I go to you and I say, I'm sorry. I wasn't able to complete the task I promised to finish today. I didn't do what I said I would. Really hard. But what we really need is not this number 1 and number 2. What we really need is level 3. I need to have even more courage. I need to have even more accountability. I need to be able to face my teammate and say, Pete, sorry to say that, mate, but you didn't deliver what you promised to deliver. That's the level of accountability we need in an agile team. That's the level of accountability we need for shared responsibility to work. That's when we stop needing single ringable necks. Love. Scrum says the next value is respect. Respect is misunderstandable because we have respect for authority and respect for a king, respect for the president, respect for position and power, and that's not what this is about. Love is pure appreciation. It's pure appreciation of you being human and of the organization I work with being a human system. It's about me showing up and it's about me being kind. This is the value that sums up the two or elicits the two statements in Nick's definition of agile. What does that mean? I used to go into organizations and say, I know better than you how to develop software. I know better than you how agile works. I know better than you how to treat people. Was that helpful? Sometimes. It was very limiting. I was arrogant. I was looking at them and saying, you're not agile, and lots of fairies died. Then I realized that coming into an organization from a place of appreciation and love, saying, oh, wow, they're in deep shit. Wow, they invested a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get there. They need all my love to get out of it. And they're successful enough that they can still afford paying me. I better go help them. Right? Be humble again. And be courageous. Be courageous to love something you don't like. My favorite Martin Luther King quote is, thank God she didn't ask us to like our neighbors. She just asked us to love them. So what does love feel like? What does this love, this deep appreciation, this deep positive regard to the humans and the systems you work with, to the organizations you work with, what does that love feel like? Take another deep breath. Feel that in your body. Feel that in your system. Maybe you feel it around you. And what does that love make possible? And to stack things up, we're feeling love, we're feeling openness, we're feeling courage. Wow, this gets bigger. Imagine what you could achieve if you'd added the other two values to this. Imagine we had focus. Imagine we had focus that would laser sharp identify the one thing we need to do next. What does that focus feel like? And where do you have that sense of focus in your system? And thinking about it, imagine what becomes possible in just your own work organization, not the whole company, just your own work organization. When you focus on one thing, one single thing, and get it done. And then you focus on the next thing and get it done. And you focus on the next thing. You're in the flow, right? Look at that river. Probably it's a loch in Scotland, but water flowing. That's what we want in organizations. I don't want to go into all the things we're doing instead, but we've definitely lost focus. So I want you to feel laser sharp focus. What's the thing you're going to do next? Let's add another quick exercise. Close your eyes and think of one inspiring thing you heard today. One inspiring thing that gives you this, yeah, try that. I do that. I stop doing this. And just identify a first step that you can commit to right now to do it tomorrow. If you have something to write it down. And then after this conference ends, focus on that until you get it done. And my wish for you is that when you get it done, you have a sense of accomplishment that leads you to just picking the next bit and do that. A friend of mine has taught me that when you take the 5 Scrum values in English and you put them like a crossword and you put them next to each other, then the word trust emerges. Trust is a passion of mine, a knack I have, and an object of curiosity for me. When I went independent 7 years ago, I boldly labeled myself the trust artist, knowing that there was something in me that increased trust where I went, and knowing that an artist is someone who gives people the opportunity to transform with the stuff they do. I can tell you a few things about trust. Trust grows whenever you expose people to an experience where they can explore their similarities and differences. I know that trust grows when we connect like we are connecting today. Like we are connecting now, like you're connecting to yourself. And deeply connecting to yourself is 70% of connecting with anyone else. And as a last embodiment thing, feel trust. Just relax and feel trust in your system, wherever you find it. People always want something specific to take away. These are some principles that have emerged in my work over the last 5 to 10 years, specifically working with leadership on all levels in all roles and educating people on how they reflect and improve their leadership instead of just improving their teams and their delivery pipelines. I won't go through them right now. I'll share the slides later, and you can pick them up from SlideShare anyway. It's just that these add to the principles in the Agile Manifesto that you're probably familiar with and that work really, really well on the team level. But if you want agility in your organization, if you want business agility, you'll need more than that. And back to our definition. I hope you do this every day, several times a day. Show up, deliver, be kind, and repeat. Thank you very much. I'm totally curious about your questions. I hope you liked it.
Thank you, Olaf. This has been quite an experience. Not only a talk, but an actual experience. So really interesting and a very good way of closing the day.
I hope so. Thank you.
There was some chatter on the chat with a lot of takeaways related to commitment and openness and how change can only begin from where we are now. I am the change that I want to see. Be honest with yourself and with your team. Show up, be kind. All these kind of things.
Lovely.
We have one question for now, and I hope people will ask some more. I'm curious if you found that changing people's attitudes and way of thinking is harder than having them learn and adapt to new processes and tools.
No, it's not harder. I used to think that, but I've made the experience over and over again that without changing how people view themselves, how people therefore view each other and treat each other, without changing that, the new processes and tools don't really work. And right, the first line of the manifesto says individuals and interactions over processes and tools, right? We use the processes and tools in order to have the individuals interact in an effective way. The whole manifesto is statements that give a thing on the right that is supporting the thing on the left, right? Contracts are supporting collaboration, plans are supporting change, and processes and tools are supporting interactions of individuals. And by focusing on Scrum, focusing on Kanban, focusing on user stories, post-its, Miro boards, Hangouts, Zooms, whatever, you name it, right? We're focusing on the tools. We're focusing on the things of the right. And we're calling them Agile. And we think that if we use a certain number of those tools, that then we are Agile. And we are never Agile. Agile is about improvement. Agile is about becoming, not being. There used to be this big distinction between doing Agile and being Agile. I think that was a dead end. I think we need to move from being Agile to becoming Agile, because becoming is the process. Becoming is the interaction. Becoming is the improvement and the repetition and the development.
Going back to the topic that is close to your heart about trust, I think, is it more difficult to do this in the times that we are in, where everybody is remote and we need to interact more through tools and less through direct physical presence and so on? Or are there any challenges that you see? Yeah,
I think yes. So yes, there are definitely challenges, but there are also very interesting opportunities. I remember one conversation in one company I'm working with. Like every other company, they closed their office at some point and everybody was working from home. And in a few meetings, I heard some things about people coping not too well. So I set up at first just a tool session, like how do we work remotely effectively? And in the first session like that, we talked a lot about chatting, tooling, video cameras, whatever. In the second session, we talked about how it's really good to, when you're living in a one-room apartment, after breakfast, to move everything away, to put on your coat, to leave the house, to walk around the house for 10 minutes, to come back into the house, sit down at the same desk, open your computer, and be in a different state of mind, instead of eating, working, sleeping, and whatever, all in the same room. Which would drive anyone crazy. And in the third meeting, people whom I had never heard share any personal thing at work started talking about how they were afraid about their parents in England, which at that time was very badly hit by COVID, how they were missing their family, how they were lonely because they couldn't meet their friends. And people came up with the most amazing things of helping each other and creating more trust than I would have ever deemed possible with these. It was a very typical developer organization, very typical left brain, mostly male. Don't talk to me about any emotions or empathy, kind of. So not people like me, people like I used to be when I was 20 years younger, and that was amazing. And the fact that with the pandemic, everybody's relationships were under stress because we saw people either a lot more than we used to or a lot less than we used to. So every single relationship in almost everyone's life was under stress. And that created a lot of attention to things that people usually don't talk about. So I've seen threats and opportunities. I've seen very, very much difficulty, and I've seen a lot of struggle, but I've also seen a lot of chances taken and a lot of new avenues of connecting being explored. And one thing that always made me curious with this electronic connection, I've been coaching on Skype for years. And one thing that's really weird is when you have a Skype conversation with someone, they're letting you into their private room, which is already a level of trust that we usually don't have when we're just in an office and in a meeting room. And then when I look at the physical distance I have from my camera and you have from your camera, in many conversations in Hangout or Zoom or Skype, I am feeling closer to the people than they would allow me to get to them if we were in a room. So this creates a very strange intimacy. And this is something that has always puzzled me about online video communication. It's not just more difficult to trust. There are opportunities there that you can harvest and use. And I think this is just another way to demonstrate for us that we are truly able to embrace change, which is what Agilists are all about, right?
Yeah, of course. Okay, another question pop up, but before that, somebody is sending love to you, Olaf. Thank you for this reminder.
Thank you.
And somebody else says, would love to meet you and pick your brain over a cold one. So perhaps you could do a virtual beer with Olaf, you know.
Yeah. I'm definitely coming back to Bucharest for leadership training as soon as this nightmare is over. And you're always welcome to come to Berlin and to see me. And you'll find me online. We can arrange a Zoom call via email or something. So absolutely reach out.
Another question that just popped up. Please tell me 3 essential things you do in order of importance when you want to build trust with a team or a person.
Check in. Establish some ritual about sharing how you're showing up and what you want at the beginning of meetings. Can be very small, but just be intentional about like letting go of the last meeting and entering the next meeting with like, this is how I am, this is how I'm showing up, this is what I want. Second tool is something I call awareness maps. Use just big sheets of paper and markers, and this works well over Zoom as well. And let people visualize something they are all interested in. If they want to get to know each other, it could be about their life and who they are. If they share work in a team, it could be visualize how we all invest our energy. And just talk about that. Share insights that we've visualized in paper before. This is awesome for your brain. It scans your brain 6 times when you do that. Builds trust, gives us lots of salient actions for things we can do. And the third one would probably be practice listening. Listening in order to understand. Move from a stance where you want to be understood to a stance where you understand, and make some practice where you can train that a habit in your team. Could be some storytelling thing where people listen to you. It could be in debates and retrospectives when you are exchanging arguments about pro and con, that you add, I repeat what I have heard you say before I respond with what I want to say. Just simple practices like this that let people take more attention of each other.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to add to this, I noticed that you are using visualization in your exercises,
Yes.
and that's a very powerful way of dealing with a lot of problems. If you can visualize yourself in the future, visualize yourself in the
Yes.
moment, and so on. That's
Yes.
just one technique. If you do that again and again, it will be extremely useful.
Yeah. And it's great for yourself, but it's even greater when you share it with others. So if you and I have a similar question, like, what don't we know about the project we're working on? And you visualize what you don't know, and I visualize what I don't know. Imagine what we find out, what we don't know together. And then we have a list of questions we can go and answer.
Okay. This was all with the questions. I'd like to thank you a lot. This was very, very, well, as I said, a powerful experience, not only a talk. So that's something very different for this type.
Pleasure's all mine.
And especially doing this remotely is quite a feat. So I have to say. Thank you, Olaf.